call this meeting of the Town of Boothbay Board of Selectmen to order. First, I'd ask that we all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda this evening, we have public hearings. First up, Shipyard Cup, Hudson Yachts. Timothy Hudson, map U16 Lot 3, located at 14 School Street, East Boothbay. Application for special amusement permit, Class A. Jim.
Like you stated before, Hodgson Yachts for a special amusement permit. They've had the Shipyard Cup annually. I don't know for how long now, but since I've been here, we've never had any issue to weigh during one of these public hearings. So that it's been paid in full. We have a completed application. I recommend approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the application for Shipyard Cup and Hudson Yachts for a special amusement permit, Class A. Questions or comments? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Next under public hearings, we have Boothbay Playhouse, Susan Domeyer, map R5, lot 10-01, located at 285 Wiscasset Road. Renewal of a special amusement permit, Class A, and I believe that should be a B and C.
Yes, it is for A, B, and C. So once again, another special amusement permit application from the Boothbay Playhouse. Historically, I've never had any history or issues with this. So it's here in full. Payment has been made on the application, and I recommend approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the renewal of the special amusement permit, Class A, B, and C for the Boothbay Playhouse. I just have one comment, since I live up in the neighborhood. Susan and Dean run a first-class operation over there, and it's a pleasure to have them in the neighborhood. Any other comments? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Next under public hearings, we have Rivertune LLC, map R4, lot 63, located at 79 Taverner Road in Boothbay, to construct 3 pressure-treated wood temporary floats, one 12-foot by 30-foot float and 2 12-foot by 33-foot floats to support a temporary berth for the 180-foot-long S.Y. Marie in the Sheepshead River. Jim?
Put in front of you for consideration is the letter from the harbor master, and also a letter from Robert Donovan, who weighed in with comment on the application. But as you see, according to the letter that our harbor master submitted, there was a on-site public hearing this morning. Mr. Burnham, Joe LeBlanc, and the harbor master were there, and I got there right after they left, and I ended up talking to Joe LeBlanc for a little while.
Yeah, he was still there. Yeah.
But the email that is submitted on here raises some points about possibly blocking the channel, but it's our harbor master's opinion that this is not going to be an issue. I tend to agree with them. So the application has been complete, payment has been made, the planning board's already acted on this, and the property file is there in front of you to Chuck's left. It's a pretty big one.
Yeah, I didn't see any problems with it either.
There was a permit given a few years back for
2 years.
a very large vessel over there.
Well, 130 foot. But he could have a little more draft.
This is bigger.
So
He's replacing his 130.
No, he's not replacing anything. He's just extending the two long floats. He's just extending them out, and then put the other float this way, and the boat will stay there.
So you're just looking to be able to
Yeah,
berth this
yeah.
size
So
vessel
yeah,
at that
yeah.
dockage
float out.
location.
Yeah, it's just temporary because this year he'll bring the boat here, and next year he's gonna bring a small one back.
Right.
It's alternating years, right?
Yeah, in layman's terms, too, he's
Yeah.
got this much larger boat that he needs to build in order to keep it there at that dock.
Yeah.
But he's only going to bring it every other year, so
Yeah.
on the opposite years, he's going to have the smaller boat. It actually will only block the
Yeah.
channel every other year when it's perpendicular to the channel, and he's got pretty good turning abilities on that boat. So maybe block half the channel for about 10 minutes every once in a while.
I mean,
The
that's-
thing is you value citizens and neighbors' opinions, but it's hard to go against what your harbor master, which is what he does as a trade. If he's telling us that there's no issue, it's pretty hard to go against that.
No,
Jim just raised a concern for me, though. Pete's saying it's not gonna block the channel, but Jim just said it may block the channel at times.
About half, like 40% of
When
the,
he's
Okay, so
docking
if
the
it's
window.
only half blocked, it's not
right.
a navigational issue.
No.
there's-
And that's what it's,
no, there's plenty of width there.
Yeah.
and that's not when it's tied up, that's when it's turning
It's
to
the
get.
big channel. When they-
Turning to get it set
Only
back.
when they turn the boat does it even interfere with the channel.
Right.
When it's at the dock, it's nowhere near
I
it.
mean, that boat's probably got
Just as a
bow
general
thrusters on it, so she
statement,
probably
it's got
turn on
bow
down.
and it has
Any
bow.
boat that blocks channels
Turn
when
them
they're
down
turning
and-
at times. And
Right.
I'm not gonna hold this guy accountable because it's gonna block for 10 minutes.
So in his letter, he puts dimensions, and that's what we're trying to illustrate, is that, yeah, he's right. There, you will block a significant amount of the channel at certain points in time, but those times are far and few between.
I'm going to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the application for Rivertune LLC. Any other comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Next, under public hearings, we have the Ocean Point Inn. Jim?
Not technically a public hearing, but I didn't want to make everybody wait to get to the further points of the new business or old business. Ocean Point Inn has a liquor license with us, and it will expire at the end of the month, and we won't have time to do the public notice. So we're requesting a 30-day extension on their liquor license. I'll need to get a letter from the selectmen if you do support that, and we can send it to the state of Maine liquor department. And we've done this in the past. A lot of our businesses, as they're trying to restart up for the season, the last thing on their mind is when their liquor license expires.
And I will apologize for putting you through this. I woke up last night, had a moment of panic, and said, "Oh crap!" Went down and looked, and sure enough, I knew I missed you when I got to the office this morning. Knew I missed your deadline. And if you can do this, we'd appreciate it. You're going to have a public hearing before our restaurant opens, so if you have you could, if there's a problem, we can do something there. But we've got to start buying the liquor and training our staff, and I missed by a week getting this in. And again, I apologize, but if you help us out on this, we appreciate it.
By requesting the 30-day extension, this will cover them and allow us to be able to have the formal public hearing at our next meeting.
Yes, at our next meeting, we can schedule a public notice.
Yeah, right.
I'll make the motion to give him the 30-day extension.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to send a letter to the state requesting a 30-day extension for the Ocean Point Inn for their liquor license. Comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much, and I will leave you to the rest of your agenda. Jim, thank you very much. I'll talk to you tomorrow about, because we're going up to Augusta. If you've got that letter, I can hand it up when I take your stuff up to him.
I'll draft something and get a signature, and we'll get it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No public
I was
comment?
gonna say,
Next, approve the minutes of the previous meeting from April 22nd, 2013.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any corrections or comments?
Mr. Editor,
I really move.
usually you're pretty Johnny on the spot with him.
Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Next on the agenda, the annual selection of the chair and vice chair. I will throw it out there to you gentlemen. If you wish to have me continue, I will.
I think, shouldn't, the board, I think, is not doing it. You should be rotating. All the members of the Board of Selectmen should rotate being chairman. You shouldn't have one guy on all the time. So I don't know, Stevie's what, next in line,
And he's the vice chair.
vice chair? Would you take it?
My comment would be, why would you do that when one person so much enjoys it? and other
That's
people
not,
don't
that's
want
not
to?
the point. I
That's my
mean,
point.
policy always been, I've been on quite a few times, Board of Selectmen, we've always rotated. We've always rotated. And I mean, you guys, maybe you guys don't feel like you don't wanna do it, but you're shirking your duties if you don't do it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've enjoyed doing it for the last few years, and I've had a little bit extra time that I can put into it, and I'll leave it up to you guys.
Well, I guess the first thing is that a motion.
I'll make it a motion, yeah, then, would you be vice chair? Dale?
Yeah, the long and short answer is yes, of course I would. I would not refuse the position.
And I'm the same way. I mean, I'm happy, I'm perfectly happy the way it's been, but I'm perfectly happy. I don't disagree with your logic, but yet, I mean, I can tell you the first thing on my mind was, I wanted no part of it the first couple of years, and I don't know about Steve, I can't speak for Steve, but I was completely green with this. Have I learned a lot? Absolutely, and that's from watching Chucky. You know, I mean, they're big shoes to fill, so I don't care, I really don't, either way. I'm very easy, so.
I'll make a motion to appoint Stevie chair and Dale vice chair.
Well, as a point of reference, though, shouldn't that, I mean, in the future, shouldn't this be at the end of the meeting?
It's,
End or beginning?
Right.
Should be.
Right. I always thought it would be the end, because I mean, if you're gonna start a meeting, you should finish the meeting, you know what I mean?
Well,
No matter who it
You can
is.
still,
It
you can
was
still.
always at the beginning of our first meeting after town.
Yeah, you can, right. could be
That was the first thing we did, first thing on the agenda. Now the pledge of allegiance is the first.
now, I just copied agendas from years past. But I don't think there's anything wrong with if you're making an appointment, which is an appointment amongst you guys, that you carry out this meeting with the chair that you came in with, and the
Right.
next meeting, it's,
Right.
This makes sense.
yeah, it's-
Yeah.
You don't, I
Yeah.
mean, we're all not gonna be here eventually. I mean, I hope not. So, I mean, it just makes sense to have it at the rear or I mean, to me, we've always had it at the rear, at the refuse district. That's just the way it's
Yeah.
always been. I don't know why it's that way, couldn't tell you.
we
But
can
it
do
makes
that.
sense.
We can do that next year.
So did Doug actually make a motion to do Stevie as the chair and Dale as the vice chair?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I don't think either one of us should be seconding anything.
You can break the motion up
In
and,
a second, you want to vote it down? And we can do-
Well, if I don't second it, then we don't even vote on it, Douglas, so then
You guys, you're shirking your duties, as far as I'm concerned.
honestly, I like things just the way they are. I think it's working out really well the way it is, and I'm a firm believer in if it isn't broken, don't fix it. That's just where I come from.
If I've had a lot of complaints that we should be rotating.
In all fairness, Douglas, I've heard it too, that, we shouldn't have one chair year after year after year after year after year. I've heard that as well, but at the same token, I don't feel comfortable seconding that. No offense.
Sorry,
Then-
that would be a conflict. in my-
break the motion up into a motion for a chairman and then a motion for a vice chair later. Two different motions.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll rescind my other motion and make it my just vote for a chairman.
Okay, so the motion is just for Stevie for chairman.
Right.
Now that I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Steve Lewis, chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Any other comments? Being none, all those in favor? Opposed? Did you vote? 3-1.
3-1, and Steve abstained. You voted for Steve, right?
I did.
No Christmas card for you this year, Doug.
You didn't have to accept?
I don't disagree that it's our duty. That's the problem I have. You know, I mean, I agree with the way Steve's logic, I do, but yet I don't disagree with rotating it around and everybody doing it. That being said, I wouldn't do it the first few years because I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I wouldn't. That's not fair to the rest of the board or the town. But I have learned a lot in the last, what have we been doing this, 3 years, 4 years or whatever. And actually we've learned from you because you've been doing it. So that's a compliment.
And don't take my not seconded.
No, I
It's just
understand. I understand.
like, I feel a little conflicted sitting here in the chairman's seat.
Yes.
Now we need the vice chair, unless, actually, I should turn it over to you.
No, you
You're the
finished.
chairman.
You finished.
No, let's just keep the meeting going the way it is.
I'll make the motion to make Dale vice chairman.
Okay, I'll second
Misery loves.
Motion's been made, seconded to make Dale Harmon the vice chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Comments? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you, I think.
0-1.
Next on the agenda, reports. Annual town meeting.
So just a quick report, everybody here was at annual town meeting, but not always everybody there was at annual town meeting. So 564 people came and voted for the referendum articles. All of the referendum articles passed, some by really strong majorities. And all of the incumbents, well, I guess nobody was really competing for a spot, so they were all voted in. And all of the articles at town meeting were voted for and approved. I don't know if anybody had any comments. It was really good attendance at the town meeting portion of the open town meeting portion of the town meeting as well. I think 80 people, which is the most since I've been here. Ideally, we want as many as possible, but we'll settle for 80. And really, a point of emphasis for me on the last article, Article 22, the tax levy limit. It's a very complicated question, and the questions that people posed to us that I answered were really good questions. And if anybody that was there had a hard time grasping it, it's because it's a very hard topic. You know, and I don't think there was a right or wrong way to vote. You just had to be cognizant of what we were voting for. Do you guys have anything to add on annual town meeting?
I should have
I'm glad to see more turnout.
Yeah.
That's great.
it. Yeah.
Which I think we have, hands down, I think we have to thank the task force a lot for the turnout that we had for the election here.
Right.
There was a lot of people on the phone getting people out to vote, and I think that's great, and more the merrier.
Too bad we couldn't get them to do that every year.
Put a controversial item on the town meeting every year. Yeah, we ran out of ballots. We had 500 printed ballots, so we had to photocopy, and then we had to hand count those photocopied. But really, it's not too much of an inconvenience for town meeting. If it was a presidential election, that would have been a little bit difficult. Well, then moving on, St. Andrews Task Force. The task force had their last meeting last week on Tuesday. They put forward a final resolution, which we read at the task force meeting, and it's ready for the task force members to sign. We were just waiting for the EDGCOM voting results, and now that we have that, we'll add that language into that final resolution, and I'll report it back to you at the next meeting here. But rather than report now, you know, what that actual resolution, look at the final copy signed and delivered. You know, I personally had a lot of fun working with the task force governing members and the volunteers. I like to tell everybody I had a love-hate relationship with the task force, which is the truth. We worked really, really hard. And, you know, ideally I'd like to have 10 months of my life back. But what we did, I'm pretty proud of. and the task force volunteers I think are very proud of. And in that final resolution, they've stated that kind of the handoff, the official handoff to the Health and Wellness Foundation, which I have a lot of high hopes for what they plan on doing in the next few months. Chuck, do you want to add anything as the chairman of the St. Andrews Task Force?
One of the things that we did just before we transitioned to the Wellness Foundation was we divvied up the remaining monies. The task force had monies left over in their account. The Second Opinion Fund had monies left over to their account, which they turned over to the task force. And the way we divvied it up is we gave $10,000 of seed money to the Wellness Foundation to get them up and going. We gave $10,000 to the Boothbay Region Ambulance Service, and then there was $1,600 and change which we donated to the town of Boothbay. That was to help cover any of the expenses, that paper, some of Jim's time, for all of that. No, that wasn't a motion made by me. It was actually made by another member of the task force in appreciation for what the town of Boothbay had done. I'm interested to see what happens as we move forward with the foundation. I have stayed involved. They asked me to serve on their pro tem board of directors, and I said yes. We had our first meeting last week. We'll be getting together for another meeting next week with a board meeting and then a public forum at 7 o'clock. The board meeting will be at 6.
So are they an actual did they get the paperwork for the 501c3?
If they haven't received it, they're in the process of it. They will be a 501c3.
So how many board of directors do they have, John?
Right now, there are 17 of us.
Oh, wow. Holy crap. It's a big board.
Patty Siebold is the president of the foundation, Dan Jameson, the vice president, Margaret Parrott is our treasurer, and Mary Alice, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Right.
We have 2 ladies serving as our secretary.
I wish them luck.
The town has offered to help them in housing their foundation for meetings. We figured we were using Tuesday in this room anyway, so it's not a big inconvenience for us.
I hear there's going to be a lot of space open in October 2nd over on the water. Good place for a meeting.
Yeah.
So we're helping the foundation get started off. Hopefully at some point in time they'll be self-sustaining and they won't need the assistance of the town of Boothbay. But in the meantime, we've kind of volunteered that assistance to them. Moving on, comprehensive planning committee. I've been reporting on that every meeting. As you saw, I came in at the 11th hour tonight because the comprehensive planning committee was having a business forum at the YMCA. So I'll give you the cut-in news is it wasn't well attended, and I'm going to write a letter to the editor and hopefully get some response. But I was joking with the committee there, and hi, I'm Jim. I'm from the government. Can we talk about your private business? So we kind of expected it to not be well attended, but that's part of comprehensive planning. It's a very dry topic to people that don't understand how it's going to impact them in the long run, and you just keep pounding away until people start realizing, whoa, I can be part of my town's future vision. Chuck, you're the chairman of the comprehensive planning committee. Have anything you want to add?
I think things are moving along great. There's the joint meeting between the Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor Comprehensive Planning Committees coming up. I'm expecting good things to come out of that. We can look at ways to collaborate and see what we have in common between the two, and maybe share a little bit of resources. There are differences in both plans, of course. Wherever we can team up to share resources, it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the joint meeting next week. What's that, Thursday at 6?
Yes.
I have that right? Thursday at 6 at the YMCA. Again, two large committees, and then we're sure that we'll get some public turnout for that meeting, because everybody will be curious about the two towns meeting together. And we're putting together an agenda now, but hopefully that spins into more cooperation on the comp plans for the next few months.
Yeah, both consultants will be there, Mark Ironman from the town of Boothbay and Bob Fons from the town of Boothbay Harbor.
Our consultant's better looking. I just wanted to say that because Bob Fons. The tax sale bid. In your packet is the latest tax sale advertisement. But the new news is the 170 Butler Road has been taken care of. That's in front of you for a quitclaim deed later in the meeting. So really there are only two properties outstanding. That's 229 Back Narrows Road and 682 Ocean Point Road. And like we said before, I expect 229 Back Narrows Road. We've been in kind of some loose negotiations with the property owner. Hopefully we have an agreement to present to you in the near future, or full payment on the back taxes. So as everything comes about, I'll keep you guys informed. But we do expect 682 to go all the way to tax sale.
The 229 Back Narrows Road, I mentioned to you the other day about putting a restriction on it about it being cleaned up before can we do that? Or could you find out if we can do that?
You absolutely can. Essentially, this is town-owned property. Do we want to execute all the way through a tax sale and foreclosure? Well, we intend to with this bid. Well, if you're going to stop that process, you can set any parameters you want. We have a similar property that we did without the selectmen's intentions of cleaning it, but we had several code issues on this property, and they went through a repurchase agreement. So we put a clause in there that said that they had to bring the property up to a standard that was permissible with our code enforcement officer.
You living up that way, you ride by it every day. I mean, I can't imagine what the
I
neighbors.
mean, if they actually come up with a repurchase agreement and we give it to them, that was my suggestion to Jim in another conversation was, same thing you just said, can we? And he said, well, we've done it before, so we can put stipulations.
Perfect way to
Oh, yeah.
get it cleaned up.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure.
Does need to be cleaned out.
You've got a tremendous amount of leverage there, and the first thing that we want to do is get them in line for repayment.
Right.
But then once we have that, we need to have a solid discussion, because there's a consent agreement on that property too. So
So they have to the end of this month?
yes, we've told them that the 24th I need to know something,
24.
because the 27th would be your next meeting.
27th made the meeting. You gotta know Friday to draw something up.
Yeah.
Somebody still living in that property?
Yes, the former property owners are living in that property. Any questions on tax acquired property? I'm pretty satisfied with how successful we've been able to get these off the list.
Did you get bids in for that one down Ocean Point?
Not yet, but we haven't met the deadline that we put out in the ad yet. We put May
31st.
May 31st is the last day to receive bids. So, but there's been a lot of interest in that one.
Yeah.
So I expect there to be a competitive closed bid process for that.
You said your next meeting, would you really be meeting on the day?
I'm going to find out here shortly,
Okay.
but let's go into that right now. I don't have a tremendous amount of business for our next meeting, which is May 27th, and then we have some kind of schedule conflicts. I kind of tentatively scheduled with the Boothbay Harbor Board of Selectmen to go to their next meeting and explain the Route 27 sidewalk project to them. So Chuck and I had an email exchange, and we figured we'd toss it out there as, is it necessary to have that meeting? Because it's also a conflict with Memorial Day. We normally would push that to Tuesday, but we've also scheduled a phosphorus training session in this room on that Tuesday. So
Liquor licenses and stuff, I mean, this is the time of year where people need to get them for their business.
Right.
If we don't have a meeting, what's that gonna do for them?
We've already put off Ocean Front
Right.
until the next one.
Right, and we've already told him that our next probable meeting will be that first one in June.
Is that gonna mess him up?
No, with a 30-day extension, no. He expires at the end of May, not, so a 30-day extension puts him to the end of June.
End of June.
What are we looking at for an agenda right now?
I actually don't have a lot, so, I mean, any of the things that we discuss under new business, I guess are plausible old business, but I don't see very much at all. I'd recommend we just cancel it altogether. Which when we don't often get the chance to,
Well, what happens if something comes up though?
if something comes up, I can communicate that.
That's when phosphorus training's at 6:30. There's nothing that says that we can't meet at 5:30.
Or even 5? I mean, I don't know what your schedule is. It's a holiday, right?
No, I'm talking
No,
about
he's talking
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh,
He's
you're
talking
thinking
Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see us meeting.
Well, I mean, if something comes up, we could do that at 5, couldn't we? If something comes up, we could do it at 5 on Tuesday.
If
I
the
could.
board's good with
I
that.
mean, I could,
Yeah.
I don't know about,
I certainly
do you have to go to that training?
don't. So how are we gonna say this? Are we gonna, only if something comes up, we're gonna
Right,
cancel
yeah.
it, unless something comes up, then we'll schedule it at
Yeah,
5?
right.
We're gonna just schedule it at 5?
I'd say schedule it at 5, and if there's nothing that needs to be handled for that meeting, then we just cancel it. by
Cancel it by
press.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Friday.
right.
We need
The
to
registers-
schedule it for it to be
Yeah,
advertised.
the register can put it right on their website if you, they're pretty good about getting it on there quick now.
Well, they can have stuff
That
on there right now.
That'll work out all right, right?
Yes. Yep, and we're just looking for the flexibility to be able to figure
I
it
just
out.
don't wanna get someone hanging on something, you know.
Yep. So, then the other thing on reports is this could plausibly be our last Monday meeting because
Yeah, right.
we'll tick over into June. And then our next meeting in June would be our first Wednesday meeting, so June 12th.
Oh, yeah, glad you mentioned that. Could you put something on the town's website?
Yep.
Because, I mean, right now, it says that we meet on the second and fourth Mondays, and it just ought to have something on the Facebook and the website saying,
Yep.
beginning June 1.
Facebook, website, outside here.
We actually have a backlog of website updates that we have to do, so we'll just, I was actually waiting for this meeting to find out if we're gonna have the next meeting, and then we'll just make an announcement.
So right now, tentatively, you're gonna schedule this for Tuesday, the 28th of May, and cancel it if you have to.
If we don't need it.
If we don't need it, if we don't
So,
need it.
but you're gonna schedule it for 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 28th, and cancel it if you don't need it.
Yes,
Yeah,
And the first June meeting is the 12th,
yes.
right,
and same time, 7?
right.
Same bad time. Excellent. Next under reports, this second time annually, the fire department has put in for a safety enhancement grant. We'll hear about that within the next month or two. But I just wanted to give credit to the fire department for being proactive and coming up with these grants. You remember last year we got about $1,800 for this from the safety enhancement grant, and there's nothing that says you can't apply it every single year. So, I was supposed to have the expiring appointments list for you guys, but I don't have it. So it's on the agenda, but I don't have it for you. The MMA Executive Committee, you guys put me forward as a nomination. I have an interview on Wednesday with the nomination committee. I'll report more when I know more. The Route 27 sidewalk project, the reason why I put this under reports is because hopefully I'll appear at the Boothbay Harbor Selectmen's meeting to explain to them all the parameters of the sidewalk project. And I just want to make sure you guys knew that before I popped up on their radar screen. I put this under reports because I'd like to schedule a goal and an objective planning with the board, and I wanted to get your input on when that would work best. I would say a workshop, in conjunction with a meeting makes best. Is the best idea. We did this the previous 2 years with me. It sets the goals and objectives for the town, which then ends up being kind of my job to make sure that we meet up with it, and then leads to a stellar, work performance evaluation later in the year.
See, 6 o'clock, June 12th. That'd be an hour before our regular meeting. You will in time.
be.
Yeah, I certainly don't.
It's whatever's good for you guys.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if we're all here.
26.
Although,
20,
yeah, you ain't gonna get us all here anyway, because I'm gonna be gone by then. I'm in North Carolina.
We could start the process and, you know, kind of do 2 half-hour segments. And that way you get the overlap, you know, so Chuck can't be here for one, Dale can't be here for the other, and you have 2 half-hour segments. Just brainstorming.
Any decisions need to be made, we'll get you on the phone.
So June 12th, 6:30. And I'll send some information in advance, kind of what we did last year and what I think we could do this year, and then we'll run into the meeting hot and get it done.
We're making on the 26th, we'll call you, but we won't stop the town manager.
One stellar review and a search all at the same time.
Those are really expensive processes you should stay away from. So we didn't have a department head meeting, but I did kind of bang heads with our department heads. Public Works has been kind of involved with most of the spring work, sweeping, lining, all those items, getting plows put away. Kind of mundane. It's not as exciting as plowing roads or building roads. The business offices kind of had the hangover from town meeting. We're trying to get caught up. And code enforcement, well, actually assessing first. There is actually going to be a board of assessment review meeting on June 20th, which we don't get to have a lot of times. So it's a great opportunity to see our board of assessment review in action on a particular one. The field work that we were working for this spring has been done, and it's now a matter of putting it in the database and crunching the numbers. Code enforcement, Art Dunlap will be back tomorrow. He will be meeting with the water district. His whole goal in life for the summer is going to be working on a special project for the town, inventorying all the properties along the water reservoirs. We're going to kind of take account of the fuel storage that they have, whether it be oil or propane, or how far it is from the water, what they have for a septic, all the things that the water district manager will point out and say, we would like to know. We're going to create that database, and we're going to use it to try to stay in touch with the property owners that are along those water reservoirs. Maybe it can be as simple as annual informationals that we send to them to keep them, we want to instill that these people have really strong responsibilities to our one water source in the area.
How many hours is he gonna work?
I got it mapped out. I think I've got 20 weeks, 1 day a week, about seven hours a day. It's kind of a small project, but he's also going to help advise our 2 new code enforcement officers on how to get MUBIC certified and work on some of our forms and processes a little bit. And then also, the planning board is entertaining looking at phosphorus standards for the water reservoir areas. Currently, the way we protect our water resources is by having strong boundaries on what developments can happen within 500 feet of the water. There are other ways to do that, and we've set up this training session in order to educate the planning board, the selectmen, staff, board of appeals on what standards are out there and how we may be able to incorporate them into our ordinance. And it might sound a little, and I'm not the best person to educate tonight. The water district has helped get us a professional to come in here and explain these standards to us. But they seem pretty reasonable, like installing best management practices for areas to collect runoff water so that it doesn't spill into Adams Pond or Knickerbocker Lake. You're probably more familiar with phosphorus standards than I am.
Well, yes and no. Treatment guys are a lot more familiar with it than I. But what they're talking about, I mean, simple solutions are like a detention pond, a small detention pond that would catch things, that would have a settling out process before it actually dumped immediately right into the pond. Some of these things are practical and pragmatic, and other things are not, are going to be a little bit more difficult to try. But I mean, the beauty of this is it's just not this random 500-foot number that came from somewhere, somebody long ago that said anything within 500 feet, because in a lot of places, the watershed is actually shedding away from the pond. So you're part of the watershed, but yet what's happening on your property isn't affecting Adams Pond at all. And other places where you might be more than 500 feet, but still have a direct impact on the pond itself. So it's really gonna be more specific to the hazards that are introduced to Adams Pond or our drinking water supply.
So the first meeting is kind of more intimate. We've invited the planning board, the selectmen, Board of Appeals and staff. That's on May 28th here at 6:30. And then on the 4th, we're going to have another one that we're going to completely open up to the public and try to educate people on this topic. Hopefully in those two sessions, we educate everybody enough so that we can start considering whether those make sense. The last thing that I wanted to update the board on, I don't know if you guys got your legislative bulletin recently in the mail, but I wanted you to take a look at page 4, mandating the management of former owners of acquired property. There's a bill out right now, LD 851. It's really interesting, especially where we're talking about tax acquired property right now. I think, and I don't understand the bill as well as I want to, but I think MMA puts a pretty good explanation of it. It looks like they want to change the way tax acquired properties are done so that the town is responsible for essentially selling the tax acquired property at market value, and then giving everything but the back taxes and the administrative fees back to the former property owner, which seems like a bear for the municipalities and complicates a tax process that's already complicated. But I just wanted to point it out that it's in your legislative bulletin.
Yeah,
Take a read.
I read it.
It scares the bejesus out of me.
I actually read it a little differently than you did, Jim. The way I read it is if the town took a piece of tax acquired property because the property owner hadn't, for whatever reason, paid their taxes, you wouldn't sell it for market value. You could still put it out to bid like you do now, but anything above those taxes would have to be returned to the former owner. Now, all this is doing is going back pretty much to the way things were done historically years ago. It used to be that if you didn't pay your taxes, the town could only come in and take a portion of your property that was equal to the amount of the taxes owed. So basically that bill is just taking you back to the old days of way of doing things, except the town would be responsible for selling the property but returning any of the profit to the former landowner.
I pulled the bill to read it. I haven't read it all in its entirety, but it dictates that the town has to do appraisals for tax acquired
Does
property.
that come out of committee?
I think it's been, I think it did committee this morning, so I don't know what the
I
action
wonder if
is.
it came out of ought to pass or ought not to pass.
I don't know, but it's one that should be on our radar screen. Whether we support or not support it, it's going to obviously have a direct impact on the town, so we need to keep it on our radar screen.
Have you spoke to McDonald?
I have not. No.
Interesting to see where his support lies.
Yeah, well, I probably know it, but we had a discussion on the listserv, the manager's listserv this morning, and then the legislative bulletin came, and I was like, oh wow, this should be on our radar screen. I was surprised that it wasn't. But MMA legislative policy committee actually has weighed in on it, and I guess they have stated that they're against the bill. So
Yeah, well, on that same line, see, years ago, the banks used to do the same thing, the bank would sell the property and they keep the money, but then they switched that around, that any money that they made, they had to go back to the property owners.
well, there's
I
a bunch of cases in which we will do a tax sale and actually not even make the back taxes back. We're just trying to get it back on the tax rolls.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it brings up questions of equity and that we need to be conscious of. I'll read the whole bill, But you guys need to read the legislative bulletin and get your spin on it.
Well, it looks like the town of Wisconsin has come up with a way to make things equitable if you don't get enough money, because I see with the Mason Station lots, they took the majority of those lots for taxes, turned around and sold them, and when they didn't get enough money for it, they took the former owners to court and said, you still owe us money. Now, they'd already taken the properties. That's having their cake and eating it too.
I'm not familiar with that. I've heard a little bit of it, but I'm not familiar with it.
They're going to court.
But that's all I have on reports.
All right, questions? Old business, town-owned properties.
Yeah.
I took some liberties with what I put on old business and new business. I know we discussed this like several meetings ago. So I've given you an Excel spreadsheet of the town-owned properties. I eliminated some of them that were just no-brainers, but you can see I didn't spend a lot of time on it until just recently. So the information that we provided you may or may not be helpful. Some of it is, some of it isn't.
I got one right here, that's one on Sawyer's Island.
Right.
You see what that reads on the end of that? It's supposed to revert back to the owners.
He's talking
Yes.
about a copy of the deed that you copied for us.
And back in the mid-70s, that, well, they call it the Ladies Improvement Association, it's the Sawyer's Island Association now. We went and got all the Lewis's heirs and signed off on everything. And that, the Sawyer's Island Association's property and all that Lewis's went in too. So when Malcolm did that, I got a feeling that he got this one signed off too. Because, I mean, the telephone company put that thing on it, Malcolm got paid for it, and the telephone company wouldn't put something on somebody else's land. So this should revert, I mean, it says it's supposed to revert back to the heirs. When the ladies' improvement. Okay,
Trying to find it in my stack of junk.
I got it right here if you want quick. So, I mean, that was just an easement. And the easement, and once the easement is done, it should have gone back to the original property owners. Let's read the last few paragraphs. So I don't think the town owns that land.
It's the strangest deed.
Well, it says it reverts back.
Well, I'm just gonna say it's just, when you
Actually-
read it, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Actually, it would revert back.
To the heirs of Albert.
Any building
P. Rose.
erected thereon shall be used for dancing.
That's right.
Yeah, but that was a school.
It's
That was a
really kind of
schoolhouse.
funny to read
I
it.
know, that was a schoolhouse back then.
I'm sure it
And
made
the building, as long as it's gone.
I'm sure it
This
made
is
sense then.
1892.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure it made sense when they wrote it.
I'd recommend that we send that one to Sally and have her look at it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna make that.
I don't wanna weigh in on
There's a
it.
motion, but to me, the way I read it, it should have gone back to Malcolm. Because Malcolm bought the land from Lewis's. And I know he went, for our association, we went and got the Lewis's to sign off, the heirs, to sign off on that because we couldn't have any alcohol in that building before. So now we can have alcohol in there because we got the Lewis's to sign off, the heirs sign off, way back in the 70s. So whether Malcolm did that, whether he did the same, you know, so he must own that, otherwise how could he?
I do not know. I wish I had an
So
answer.
can you get a hold of the phone company and see what they got for records on there?
Yeah.
Because Tony said he had it, but he said he can't find it. I've asked him. When he bought the land, but he said he can't find it.
Okay.
So, but the phone company should have a record of it.
Right. Well, it's not uncommon for towns to have really, really old deeds on some properties that
I know,
are
but See.
are
so-
odd when you look at them in today's reference.
So you have to send Sally this.
Yeah, I'll send her all the information and ask for her advice.
And tell her that the Sawyer's Island Association, which is now, is the same, same group. We just call it Sawyer's Island Association. Because we had that building up there, that all come off the Lewis property.
Okay.
So, and we went and got all the Lewis's way back in the '70s to sign off on it. So, okay?
I will, I'll make sure that one gets there for advice. I really don't even want to
Well,
weigh in.
I read it, so that's how I read it, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Interpreting documents that are
I know, 18, I know.
So in the description, I put kind of a key description to me as I was flipping through them to try to figure out which ones were where. Some of these are, I guess, fit on the no-brainer list, but I had already put them in your packets for your consideration. I only had till Monday. I had till today to look them over. So some of them fit on the no-brainer
I'm
list.
glad I came in Friday and picked this up, so I went through them all.
You probably looked through them then before I did. But any other properties that you want to discuss? I mean, obviously the ones with question marks, I have a little more work to do.
Green Island? Where is
Green Island,
It's a good question.
it? Where is it?
up on, and so is that in the river there, so is, I mean, yeah. She's the
South
river.
Boston Island. Where that is?
Over in that
West
river.
of Indian Town Island.
Well,
Okay, that helps me. I don't know if it'll help
No,
you.
it doesn't help me.
No, you own the whole island?
that little.
How big of an island is it? Is it
It's
0.75
It's
acres?
up this side of our,
Yeah.
Alice Spring, yeah, Alice Springs. Come out, that line goes, supposed to come out and go through, go that way. Right after you come out, go by Alice Springs and goes off and there's
So is
that,
that a typo?
there's that little island right there.
Valued at
I think they call-
$589,400?
I think they call that a Green Island.
I wouldn't put a lot of merit into the assessed values
It
in
has to be,
these.
because Powderhorn belongs to the harbor and Alice Springs belongs to the harbor.
They don't get the
So it
same
has to be
periodic
that-
review as
that little
everything
island
else.
right there.
If that's an island, couldn't we have the harbor master check it out?
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Yeah, what's he gonna
Out
check?
there and see, and then we need
Yeah,
to
there's
know
some
if we actually do
people,
own it.
once in a while somebody go out there and camp on it. I mean, stay overnight or something, I've seen people, that's very seldom, no, it's not very big,
No, it's 0.75 acres.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's long and narrow, so.
Right, it's less than an acre and it's, like he's saying, it's really long and narrow, so it's unbuildable.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd rather keep that for public land just so people can go and camp on it.
Yeah, but who's gonna take it?
Okay, 3.31 acres on Murray Hill Road.
Yeah, that one's got my interest. I'm trying to figure what I own for 3.31
Well,
acres.
Do you see my description
That's-
as,
that's-
I know.
that's
I don't
way-
know.
Yeah,
That's way down on the end of the.
We own two little pieces of
Yeah,
it. We've
yeah.
discussed this a couple years ago.
Yeah,
We own
right.
yeah,
swaths.
4 foot wide and
Yes,
75
right.
foot long
But
walkway.
it was never brought to our attention 3.3 acres. That's a
No.
lot.
If you look at the reference, U15 lot 0, I didn't even know what that meant.
Is it it's the cutoff, it's the old road that goes from the extension of Virginia Street down to Murray Hill.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Okay.
right, which makes no sense to me. We kept that one, but we gave back the one that takes you from Murray Hill to Presley Drive, which makes no sense to me at all. But,
Yeah. I still have to do some more work on that one. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out from the tax maps and the deed references that we have.
So he's got question marks.
Right.
I think you're right though, Will.
But it should be up on, I mean, she should have it, everything on the computer in here, shouldn't she?
Have what?
All that stuff, bring it right up.
All this came from our assessing database.
Yeah,
This, which I kind of manipulated into a
Yeah, I'll
form
have
so
to
that we
come,
could
I'll
read
come
it.
look at that tomorrow.
Now, the Smith property is 23.5 acres. I thought it was 60.
It's not
18,
23.
18, isn't it?
It's 18 if you read the deed. But when
And
you,
actually, if you look at the survey that the town has of the property, you'll see that it's not 23.
no, and once again, this comes from the
Yes.
assessor's database, And for public properties, we don't review them as often as other properties. So if there's errors, we wouldn't have noticed because we're the property owner. But for this, I brought copies of tax maps, but now I don't see where I put them.
Well, with that property, I think we either do something with it or get rid of it. It's that easy. Whether we put out requests for proposals and see what we get.
Actually, you need to take it to voters if you want.
That's right. I don't disagree.
But we can find out if there's any interest in it.
Mhm. Exactly. If you put out requests for proposals, we could get 5 and none of them make sense. We could get one that would really fit in with the town. I don't want to sit there, I mean, if someone came forth, say, a civic association back when they were in their heyday, 10, 15 years ago, and they wanted to put a park in there, I think it'd be great. I would. But it's just sitting there idle. There's never anybody in there.
Actually, there is.
I've never seen a car.
Well,
I
I
never
would
had either.
respectfully ask that you drive by there on a daily basis then. There have been people up in there walking. There have been people up in there hunting.
Well, boy, you must, I've been by there a good many times during the day, middle of the day, anytime.
Well, when I go to work
And I
every
go there
morning,
almost every
usually
Wednesday.
at least 3 or 4 times a week,
Yeah.
there's a car parked in there.
I go
When I
in
come
there,
home at night, some nights there's a car parked in
I
there.
have
And
never
it's
seen.
not mine.
Like I say, I mean, I'm not even saying that we should get rid of it, but do something with it. You know what I mean? Whether we put a park in there with something. I mean, it's just sitting there right now.
Yeah, it's not making us any money.
Well, I mean, but you know what? I could even go by that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for.
I am willing to bet that if you were to talk to the Clammers,
I've asked a few and they never use it because they're always closed. And then it's quite a hike to go down in there with your clam on when they're full.
Right.
I did. I've asked a few.
actually, it's
but-
not that far a walk down in there on the
Well,
Smith
yeah.
property to get to the flats, if there's a better access trail. What had happened with the BCA is they ran into a bunch of DEP red tape. They wanted to put an access road down to the river in there. And what had happened at the time was they were gonna be required to pave it to make it ADA accessible. Right now, the land trust has an ADA accessible trail in Penny Lake, which is behind Hannaford. That isn't paved. That's a graded path that you'd be able to take a wheelchair on and walk without worrying about tripping. It didn't have to be paved. So I think there's been some changes since the BCA had looked at putting that down there. I've talked to a couple of clammers as well, and they seem to think that they could get the help to put the trail down there. There are walking trails that the BCA had cut through there. That was done with the help of the land trust. The BCA put the parking lot in. They had some of the old wood cut off there. Things like that have been done. For people to say that nothing has been done up there, that is a mistruth.
Boy, I haven't seen it, and I go by there a lot of times. And I've been doing it, how long we owned it now? 15 years? How long we owned it?
How long we
Probably
owned
10
it?
years.
Well, I can tell you
Yeah,
that
probably about 15 years.
they had the convicts pull out the brush. And unfortunately,
They left it-
previous administration never got it hauled away by the town crew. And it's sat there since.
But, you
That
know-
falls under the town.
But it's, I mean, if that's waterfront goes, it's almost useless. I mean.
It's not. Right now,
How long, even if you put a float there, how long do you think you could use the thing? An hour each way? And then when it goes out, it's just plain old mud flats.
you could use it more than an hour each way.
No, I don't think so.
I do. I live up there.
Yeah, well, I've been down there plenty of times, so I'm,
Obviously not enough.
I've gone up there in my boat plenty of times, so.
Obviously not enough.
Yeah, well, I never seen no activity and nothing. And we need to get some money in that contingency fund from somewhere. And if we can sell that land and get some money and put in that contingency fund, we'd be a lot better off.
And good luck convincing the voters of that, Douglas,
Well,
because
that's why I
I
say-
think you'd find that the same folks that turned out when they voted in 2002 to retain that property via town meeting vote, would turn out again, and you'd see even more. What I've been hearing from the people is they don't want that piece of property
The
sold.
people I hear from is don't
Well-
want to get rid of it, so.
Well, those people were in the minority as well back
Yeah,
in
so-
2002 when the people said to keep it.
Yeah.
The only way that you'd be able to get rid of that piece of property is to take it to a town meeting vote. And I'll be honest with you, Douglas, I don't think it would pass to sell. The people would tell you again, keep it.
Well, you have to get your people out, and I'll have to get my people out.
They're not my people, they're the townspeople.
So that's how it goes, that's how it goes.
So are we supposed to have people? Because
Yeah,
I missed that memo.
well,
That is too.
you can, you can talk to people, get them to come out.
No. I don't work for any set of people, I work for all the people.
So,
Anyway, where are we at with this?
Wow, we're way too deep into it.
Do we want to get proposals on this property?
well, put some feelers out, what happens, I think I'll do in the hand, put some feelers out. See what-
Honestly, if, my feeling of it is, and I'm kind of in between the two of you realistically, if you put out, request for proposal, whatever you wanna call it, I don't know what you call it. I think if you had a really good proposal, and what that is, Chuck, I don't know, I really couldn't tell you. But say if you got one, and even if they weren't gonna pay you for it, if it fit the aesthetics of the town, somehow it was gonna bring jobs in without being a nuisance, then I think it would sell to people. I think it all depends on what it is. I really do. I mean, if you had somebody like a lumberyard, I hear that 10 years ago was one of the proposals that wanted to go in. I wasn't involved in
Not
none
on
of
the Smith property.
I don't know, but say if it was, say if all of a sudden Hammond Lumber, is that the name of these people down here? And it's
Yeah,
changed a
but-
couple of them. Say if all of a sudden they said they wanted to move up there. You know, I think that would fit in there nicely. You could tuck it in out of the way.
Hancock was interested at one time.
Okay, Hancock,
They
whoever.
were actually interested in the Boothbay Playhouse.
Okay, I don't know, but I think that if you had someone come in and have a good idea, I think it's worth looking at. We don't have to accept any of them. We don't have to take any of them to town meeting if we don't want them. We may get zero. We may get a guy that wants to put elderly housing or something in there, and we may not feel that that's appropriate. I think that it's at least we'd be doing our duty of looking at it.
Right.
You know, whether we do anything with it after that, who knows? I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know what the rest of you.
No, I feel the same way.
I can tell you that the people feel that when they voted in 2002 to retain that property as public access, that public recreation and access to the river, I believe, is how the town meeting warrant article was written. Be prepared for the backlash.
But
if
you know
start
what?
talking
I
about
haven't
taking
heard
it.
that, Jack. I've heard just the opposite. I've had more people come into the dump and say, when are you going to get rid of that damn Smith property? Now, whether that's the minority, I couldn't tell you. I really don't
A
know.
lot of things have changed since '03.
Yeah, a lot of things haven't done.
So, and,
Well, we don't need a town meeting to have proposals given, right?
no, all we gotta
I
do.
mean, like I said, if we get all crappy proposals, then you don't carry forward with it.
Right,
You know, I mean, if somebody comes in and wants to put a dog park in there, I don't know. I mean, who the heck knows?
then you have to have the 3 public hearings so we can discuss it and see what happens, if we get any good proposals.
With this piece? No,
Huh?
no.
What do you mean?
We don't have to. I think I think you should.
This piece of property, Jim can correct me if I'm wrong, Sally's opinion is that in order to do anything other than what the townspeople said to do with that property, you gotta go down meet and do it, correct?
Yeah, we asked Sally to drill into this topic a little bit more because we're curious. You know, it's obviously complex, and we had asked for an opinion once upon a time. Without the 2002 vote, yeah, you deal with it as a tax acquired property because because it was a tax acquired piece of property. But with the way the town meeting question was formed, it was a pretty rigid question. Then Sally believes it needs to go back to town meeting to change that change the acceptance of that via town meeting again. So, yeah, it would have to be done town meeting, which you need to have one public hearing for anything that goes before town meeting anyway. So,
Personally, I'd love to see a park kind of similar to like a Nicotine. But the reality of it is, along with that comes, well, the problems that we have with Nicotine, and that's why they don't plow it in the wintertime, is because kids get down there and raise heck. And I think up there, it would be even worse, kind of being up in the middle of the sticks, so to speak. So,
The neighbors could police it.
nowadays, I wouldn't dare. I know your dad's tough. They wake him up in the middle of the night, but nowadays, you just don't know with kids. I mean, I'm not just saying kids, anybody, you know.
I won't tell you there hasn't been issues with that piece of property. We had issues with four-wheelers coming through there and moving the stone wall and coming through Dad's and going down through there. The sheriff took care of it.
No, but what I'm saying is if we build a park, if we was to say we're gonna build a park similar to a Nicotine, that's what I'm saying. You know, because the more you make access, like Knickerbocker access, the more you make access, the more traffic we're gonna create. That's just the nature of the beast. So, I mean, I think it'd be a great spot. I've never been up there. I can't tell you what kind of title frontage, but it'd be nice to have a park right out there. It really would be. I'm not opposed to that. If that's,
Why don't you go down there about June, July, there, go clamp it down there, see how many more black flies get you. I mean, I went down there one time down near Rennes, man, I'd take the mud and just cover my eyes because there was no way I could stand there. I mean, when I did, I mean, there
Clammers
was
are down
just
there,
hundreds of
clamming
them.
whenever it's
So,
open. They don't have a
I
problem
mean,
with it.
it's not a good situation at all down in there, I'm telling you.
I can't speak to it because I've never been down there.
Well,
I really can't.
I have, so.
I can put together a plan to solicit proposals for the property, but where it's contentious, I'd ask you guys to vote to have me do that, just so that I know where my direction stands.
So, making a motion, I'll second it.
Well, I think we put out for a request for proposals on what they, I don't know how you'd ever word it.
I'll put something together, but it'll take me a little while, and if
It's
You
not
were rich,
binding,
what would
though,
you do
correct?
with this property?
I'll have to run it by Sally and see
If
what
you
she
make a motion and
likes.
have it seconded, to have Jim
Right,
create a.
but we don't have to take that, any of them, is what I'm getting at.
No, but if you have a motion and a second to authorize Jim to put together some sort of advertisement seeking proposals for a piece of property, he's gonna do it.
Yes, no, but I mean non-binding, meaning are we gonna be responsible, do we have to take on them, is my question. When I say
You wouldn't be
non-binding,
able to
can if
without
we
a
can't
town meeting
sell it.
vote.
right,
You'd have to write into any advertisement that everything's contingent on a town meeting vote.
Right.
Right, which isn't the first time that a town's done something like that.
but we can still not accept any of them and not have a town meeting vote too, correct?
Certainly,
Yeah,
certainly.
No,
Yeah,
We
we would
have-
write that in your,
We have a right to refuse and accept all, proposals.
yeah, and that's why I'm saying it's gonna take me a little time because it's a little bit of an odd duck. I have to probably
Yeah.
come up with a game plan that I'd bring back to you guys and say, what do you think before we send this out? So you get another opportunity, but to work on it, I just wanna know that we have a majority of the board that's interested in doing it.
You might get a majority, but you won't get a unanimous vote. I can guarantee you
Well,
that.
that's why I'm asking for it.
Well, you should abstain anyway because you got conflict of interest.
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it butts on your land.
Yes, you do.
Don't about on my land, Douglas.
You don't want us to sell it.
It's your father's land, so it's still conflict of interest.
You hinder us.
As far as I'm concerned, there'll still be a conflict of interest, so,
There's no conflict of interest in
Well-
Douglas.
well, there is.
No, there isn't. Look up your statute on conflict of interest. You show me where I have a conflict.
Just so I'm not confused, did you make that an actual
Yeah,
motion?
sure.
Okay.
What was the motion?
To put out requests for proposals, for Jim to put out for requests for proposals of what to do with that property.
Yeah, now second it.
I think I just don't, now it's discussion, right?
Motion's been made and seconded to have Jim put together an advertisement seeking proposals for what to do with the so-called Smith property, also known as the Cross River Center. Now it's discussion time.
I just think that we wouldn't be doing our job if we don't at least look. Whether we do anything with it or not remains to be seen. We may get 5 proposals and none of them make any sense. We may get 5 and they all make sense to take to the voters. I mean, ultimately, it's not our decision anyways.
Right.
If the voters say to retain it, so be it. They're the ones that make that decision.
Voters already did.
But that's what we have, with selectmen's, we try to change things.
It's not our job to tell the voters that they don't know what they're doing. It's the voters' job to tell us we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Motion's been made and seconded.
I'm gonna bring any drafts back to you guys before anyway, so.
Yeah, right.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 4-1.
Alright, and then my other comment had nothing to do with the Smith property particularly, but it has a lot to do with the rest of the properties.
Okay.
I mean, certainly some of these I can see that they're town-owned properties, they're going to be town-owned property, they make all the sense in the world to keep them. There is definitely a good handful on here, well, that need some definitions as to what they are for one. And I realize you've already said repeatedly it's not complete, and I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire. But I would like to think that we can come back to this board in fairly short order and say, what do we do with these nonsense properties, for lack of a better word? Because they're foolish for us to be even maintaining them. Some of them. Some of them might actually be really pertinent too, but with no definition of what they are, it's really hard to say.
Right.
Another thing, Jim, that's not on here is the property that we bought with the animal hospital.
That's here.
Where is it? What's it under?
1033 Wiscasset Road.
Yeah.
Second to last one. Just about
Oh, I know
16.
what-
No, that says old animal hospital. I'm talking the extra piece that we bought.
I know what, there's a piece right behind it
Right.
Yeah.
that
Well, you didn't
we
buy
bought
it, it
off
was
the
donated.
abutters.
No, we bought it.
We've
You
got
bought
it.
it?
We bought it, but I'm not sure if, do you remember if there was some sort of talk about it could only ever be used for town business? Do you remember that?
Well, there's some kind of stipulation on it. don't know
I
what
thought
it
there
is.
was, but we'd have to look. Sally was the one that actually did all the paperwork for that land, so she should have it, I would
Yeah,
think.
but you
So
guys never should have bought.
Douglas, that's old news.
Yeah, I know. You four sitting right on the board though did it. And I tried to talk you out of it, couldn't do it.
I'll find out. I eliminated some off this list that I thought were the no-brainers. I find it hard to believe that I would have eliminated something like that, because what I took off was like fire department.
It's kind of like right out behind the ambulance and right behind the vents.
Well,
I
one-
think it squared everything
Yeah.
off.
One thing we found is
Yeah.
our
One acre.
consistency with listing town properties. Some of them say Boothbay, town of Boothbay, and then some of them are just odd. So we're still strangling the old assessing database. So
I have to say, Jim, that if the board wanted to see a total list of town properties, they should see the total list of town properties. I realize that some of them don't make sense, like fire department, things like that, but the board should have the entire list if they want to look at it.
I can put them back in. I think I got some direction to eliminate some of the kind of no-brainers. So, but I can put those back in. It only takes a heartbeat to do.
I didn't realize we owned like the property the monument's set on. I just figured that was state, kind of like in the state right away kind of thing. Interesting.
I know, I keep looking at that, .01, Mill Pond Culvert. .01.
We should sign that over to Hutchins.
That's where the war monument is.
No, there's
No
two
code.
different properties there.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we still have a little bit of work to do to try to figure out. I thought it would be a little bit easier.
What's the old school property? On Sawyer's Island or?
That's the one that
Oh, that's the one.
That's what I'm
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah,
That's a really historical school
that's the
property.
one he's gotta check with Sally about.
Yeah, the
There's no buildings
18.
on it, it's just property?
No, just property.
You can only use it for dancing.
Right?
No, you can't.
No, it was the school.
No dancing, that's right.
No dancing, that was the schoolhouse out there.
So if we go over the railroad tracks, we can dance there. Sorry, you have to take the easy ones.
There's your,
Huh?
I know. Don't worry, I found it.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, the Arrowhead one should be gone. It says I put in there quitclaim deed. We've already done the quitclaim deed on that one. The Ocean Point, 682 Ocean Point Road one, that will be up for discussion here shortly, as a tax acquired.
the one that's off Beach Road,
Yes.
it says Old Tower.
Yep.
Something back here.
It's out back of my house, but it's not on my property, it's the next property out.
Used to be Cal
But,
Watson, didn't he own that?
But I believe the Rigos own the property there's like a postage stamp, it's like 30 by 30 or 20 by 20 of a property that has that tower going up it.
0.35 of an acre.
Yeah, why would we wanna own that, I guess? But the problem is you're never gonna sell it.
Good place for a repeater.
It would be, yeah, but the problem is access. They,
Your
that
drive.
property has access on the, best way I can put it, the in-law side of my property, because they live on the other side of it, down. And that's where the access is, up over the ledge.
Mm.
So to get a road in there would be tough at best. But the problem is to try to give that property to the landowner that surrounds it. You don't know if they take it with a tower on it.
Right. And it happens in a lot of towns where they have peculiar pieces that they just can't do anything with. It's not surprising.
But I guess to further my concern a little bit, I mean, that thing's getting old and rusty.
It's also a liability.
That's my problem, is who's on the hook for that if somebody should get hurt?
I suppose technically it's our property, so it's us.
Because the guide wires, I mean, the last time I was out there was probably, it must have been it was before you was here, because John had, I think it was GWI, 3-4 years ago, that wanted to look at that property to put some sort of an internet repeater or something high speed up there. So I went up to show them where it was because they didn't know how to get there. And some of the guide wires were barely there then, so I can't imagine them being any better. It just makes me a little concerned. I mean, it would take someone being up in there, which I haven't seen anybody up in there in ages, but Hunter, I guess that's about it. It's pretty hard to access, but there is a liability there, but yet I don't know how you'd ever get it out of there. I don't know how you ever got them pieces up in there. I mean, it's like a regular, I mean, it's triangular. I mean, they're not light.
Well, if you're concerned with it, we can take a look at it, see what we can do.
I mean, honestly, I don't think you should have a town liability just kind of swinging in the breeze.
There's an old metal building up there, one of them old Sears and Roebuck storage sheds
Mm.
that they used to keep, I guess, all his radio equipment in it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's all old and rusty too, that's
Cal
not my
Watson
concern, it's that dang tower.
When he put
going.
that up and then he
I don't-
serviced it, he serviced it himself as far as I know.
I'm not sure. That's my only concern, is that dang thing sticking up in the air 75 to 100 feet. It's quite a hike. But it would be a hike getting it out of there.
Like-
whoever it is.
We could take a look at it and see. You know, I honestly wouldn't even know it was there if we hadn't had our discussion about it.
I mean, it's gotta be one of the higher points in Boothbay, it's gotta be, I mean.
Well, we had talked about it a couple of years ago, of that being, to check it out and maintain it for because there's dead spots between Boothbay and East Boothbay. And that would be a perfect spot for a repeater.
It would.
Hmm?
Cell tower.
It would be good for a cell tower too, if you could
Yeah.
find anybody interested.
Yeah.
But again, the biggest drawback of all that is these cell towers, they have to have generators. And generators require maintenance, and maintenance requires a truck to be able to pull up to them. They're not interested in walking up into the woods. They want to be able to drive. So the GWI guy back then had asked if there would be any chance of coming across my property, because it's an easier shot up in there. But once you get up so far,
What'd
there's
you
no
say?
such thing. Huh?
What'd you say?
I told him I didn't see one, no.
Oh.
And they didn't make him an offer, so there's no road.
Right.
We
No.
did look into it for the ambulance as well, and nobody would even climb the tower or maintain it, they said it was too far gone.
Yeah, it's too old,
So it's,
yeah.
But all you got is the worker is the base,
Yeah.
and the power lines that go up there.
It's the location.
We'll take a look at it and see what we can speculate that we could do about it.
I mean, it may be worth a phone call to a cell company, maybe they'd have interest.
We tried doing that when the tower company was interested in Boothbay Harbor a while back, and Boothbay Harbor wasn't interested in expanding their tower. We contacted the same company and said, please look at it. Please look at that location, and they weren't interested then. So
That's when they were gonna piggyback on the tower that's on the town office down Boothbay Harbor, right?
yes. So I mean, it's a hard property to showcase to
Mhm.
You're
to
on.
people.
It's so inaccessible.
Google. Show them your phone.
Oh, they knew where it was. We gave them all the information on it. They just weren't interested in it.
And they suspected Stevie wanted hundreds of thousands to come across his property.
Now,
so they
realistically,
Is it zoned for a brewery?
For a brewery?
realistically,
Nobody
the
can
best-
be.
the best access would be coming off from Wendy's side, because it's flatter. That would be your best access.
Well, I mean, even if we're gonna do something in the future with that property, if the tower is so far gone, then you'd probably it'd have to be gone before you could even showcase the property anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe that's the first step is, how do we get rid of that tower?
Well,
Could
that's,
Couple of others.
But could you do that?
Could we drag it through your property?
No, I mean, but I guess my question would be, a private company, if they were interested in that, it would still have to be town-owned land. If you tore the old one down, waited a while, and then wanted to put a new, does towers fall under the same zoning as building? Because if it's only a 20 by 20 or 30 by 30 piece of land, would they ever be able to put one back there if you tore the old one down?
There's zoning requirements for towers. I don't know what it is specifically in that zone. We can look at that. I mean,
Just curious.
we wouldn't do anything until we looked at things like that anyway.
All right.
Anything else on this list when we've got it in front of us? I mean, I'll do some more work on the list to beat it up a little bit to give you more information, but
I'd be more curious on the 3.31 Murray Hill Roads.
and there's a half an acre on this gas road that's undesignated. So maybe that's the other piece of property.
I think it was 1 acre though.
I thought so too, but that's it.
We paid 1 acre, 20 grand. If I remember correctly.
No.
Like I said, I believe Sally did all that, right? We didn't have to hire a land lawyer. So she should have easy access to it.
Anything else on town property?
Well, the ones that I have questions on have question marks on them, so they don't do me any good.
yeah.
All right. Payport, Maine.
Yeah, like I said, I took a lot of liberty in what I put in old business and new business. Like once upon a time, we talked about possibly doing credit card for payment at the town office. In the elapsed time where we've discussed this, the state has come out and expanded their Inform Me site to include this Payport, where towns can kind of accept credit card through their web portal. And then also Trio has gone and kind of linked them together. So you can essentially accept credit card through the town. It would go through our Trio process, but the card would be processed in a web portal through the state, which would take us off the hook for keeping credit card information or trying to get those third-party charges. And really, it just dumps back into our site, and it makes the accounting relatively
Who pays
easy.
the credit card fees?
What's that?
Who pays the credit card fees?
The person with the credit card, so the
Cardholder.
purchaser.
So if they charge something for 200, it's really gonna be like 206.
It's 2.5% or minimum of $1. So I sat in on a WebEx to see how the Trio portion worked. It's seamless. I mean, it's too easy of an option for us to pass up for regards of administration. I guess it falls back on to the selectmen. Do we want to offer this service?
Fee.
What's that?
How much does it cost us a year? It must come with a fee.
The Payport actually doesn't cost us anything. You just sign up because they collect those third-party charges and they make all the money off that. The Trio portion ends up costing us in the first year $625 and then $100 per year in maintenance after, which in comparison to the other modules that we have in Trio, that's kind of small. It seems like an easy no-brainer to me, but where we discussed this such a long time ago, I wanted to bring it up to you guys again and say, rather than the third-party vendors we were looking at before, this is much better.
Who's responsible for security against data breaches?
That's I think is the best part, is none of the data is secured through the town. Matter of fact, when they swipe the credit card at the town, that data goes into the main Payport system. It is processed there. We don't store anything locally. So the state of Maine is responsible for all that information.
Having worked for a company that's been through a data breach where it wasn't us that got breached, it was somebody else. The company took a lot of heat for it. So if the state of Maine got breached, it'd still be the town of Boothbay that takes the heat.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing's completely free of liability or exposure, I guess. But I mean, where you are falling on the state of Maine rather than a third-party vendor that can leave town and leave you high and dry, it's a lot more common to know that that's a state of Maine issue.
Credit cards are the way everything's done now.
Right, I was just gonna say it anyway.
So you pay I pay my Easy Pass with it, your dentist, your speeding tickets, not that I know about that.
I understand that, Frank, but I also know that if there's a breach at some point in the future,
Excellent questions,
you
yeah.
still get beat up, even if it wasn't your fault that you got breached.
Yeah, a lot of the credit card companies seem to assume the responsibility of that too. If the charges were not charges that you made, and I do a lot on the internet, and my credit card's been stolen numerous times, and I've never gotten any charges on it.
At least that's what your wife told you, right?
Well, there were 900 charges, 900. So.
I think this day and age, I don't know how.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing. I think that's a great question to ask about liability and all that kind of stuff. It's almost because the state is taking this responsibility, it's almost less liability than taking a check. Because what if you have an employee that writes on the checking account number? And all of a sudden, there you've got it right there in front of you, all the routing numbers and the bank numbers and all of that. I'm amazed that they print those out on checks. It blows me away that they still do that. But anyway, it's everywhere. Credit cards are everywhere.
They even do that, buy a cup of coffee now.
Oh, yeah.
You get behind
Right,
someone
I
at the
see
store and
people,
they swipe it for
yeah.
$1 coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll be really popular with people that are doing motor vehicle and IFNW processing, probably not tax payments. But the InforMe portal is we're using it for a lot of things already.
Do they also offer a check that you can enter? Some places will offer that you enter in your check information and it just automatically debits it from your checking account instead of credit card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They do
You get the
both.
check back with stamp void.
Yeah, if you've ever written a check at Walmart, they hand it back to you when you're done.
Right.
They hand it to them, it goes
Yeah.
through.
I just wondered if they offer that same
Circle
thing.
Pay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Home Depot's the same way.
So we're already using rapid renewal for motor vehicles, so people can go online and renew
So
their
they're already paying
registration.
by credit card.
You can already go. You can already go and renew your dog license online. It's the same exact website, same interface. It's just a new feature of their interface.
So really, we're accepting credit cards, we're just not accepting credit cards at the front desk.
Right. Well, kind of. The state of Maine is accepting credit cards and then giving us the money that they're that we're receiving, so, kind of.
To me, it's kind of a
You'll
no-brainer.
accept, you accept it.
Right.
So what do
No.
you need from us? Go ahead and do it, Jim.
Consensus, yeah. I was looking for
We got
consensus. It's a new feature. I want you guys to be okay with the service before we deliver it.
I got mine.
Okay.
All right. New business, comprehensive planning committee appointment.
So we have a vacancy on the comprehensive planning committee, and Nicholas Barth, and I put his letter to the editor that he submitted to the register recently. After he submitted his letter to the editor, I called him up because I was like, well, I'm not sure you've got my intentions correctly. So we had a pretty good conversation, and he is interested in the comprehensive plan. I said, well, why don't you take this open vacancy? So I'm recommending to you guys to appoint Nicholas Barth to the comprehensive planning committee, and he said he would accept it if appointed.
But I guess I'll ask you this question, being the chairman of the company. Is it too far in to have someone new come in?
No.
I don't think so.
Just remember, when we appoint him now to serve on the comp plan, we're gonna reappoint him in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Oh, we have to reappoint that?
Yeah.
Every year, even the comp plan?
Your ad hoc committees really
I-
expire.
I was unaware of that because we all knew going in that it was pretty much a 2-year commitment.
Right. I would just assume that once you're appointed, you're there until it's done. Huh.
Well, ad hoc committee appointments they expire at the end of the fiscal years because, I mean, think about it, if your selectmen turned over, then it's up to them to reappoint the ad hoc committees.
Is that state law or is that in the admin code?
No, it's state, yeah, it's through statute.
I'll make the motion to appoint Nicholas Barth to the comprehensive plan committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Nicholas Barth to the comprehensive planning committee. Comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes.
Great.
I have a question about the comprehensive plan committee. Is the next meeting the actual joint committee on May 23rd?
Yes,
Okay, at the Y?
yes.
All right. Where at the Y?
It's gonna, what's the name of that room again?
Coastal Club Room?
Coastal Club Room, is
I'm
that?
guessing.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the ones they use. for-
Yeah, that is the right room. I just forget the name of it sometimes.
It's open to the public.
Yes.
You dare to come.
All comp plan meetings are open to the public.
Yep.
All right. Next up, McKed General Assembly representative.
So right now, our McKed appointments are me and Chuck. And I got this email from McKed, and I just want to make sure that you're still going to represent us, and I'm still going to represent us on the McKed boards.
What's your cat?
Mid-Coast Economic Development District. I'm happy to continue.
We need a new representative. That was one of the committees I took on, Mr. Chairman, so.
Okay.
The General Assembly, you know, meets minimally once a year, but could go to any of the board meetings. You know,
They usually have monthly or bi-monthly meetings. They'll send the minutes out to you, they'll send the agendas out to you. You get a boatload of paperwork.
yeah, they've gone to quarterly for the board of directors, and the executive committees meeting more regularly, which I think is a nice formula. But if you're no longer interested, I would recommend that we look at somebody that's, you know, we ask some of our planners, our planning board, if they're interested in serving on some of those roles. Be nice to kind of divest ourselves into.
Does it benefit them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have an economically driven kind of planner, yeah, absolutely. Mike, you're on the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, right? Do you know who your representative is for McKen?
There is nobody on this. It's Boothbay Harbor's blank.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
But you know that's a good example of where they have a planner doing the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission. If we can find somebody that's got a passion for economic development to be our General Assembly member, I can work on that if that's what you want. But
Where are the meetings?
Damerscott.
wanna, I mean, I don't wanna speak for everybody here, but I mean, it seems to me it makes good sense.
Let's have
Well,
other,
yeah, that's a good idea, but it also didn't hurt to have a selectman on that board as well.
I won't argue, I mean, but I mean, it does seem to make sense what he's saying. I would not be opposed to it.
I guess it would matter who it was. I mean, if someone like Nancy has been doing it a while, had an interest, I'm not saying I'm not trying to throw her into that at all, but,
That's good, because I can pretty much say that her answer would be no.
but but what I'm saying is someone that's been doing it enough would make sense, but someone new may not, I guess is my point.
I was actually thinking of if, I didn't know that if Chuck would be inclined to do it longer, but Fran McBurdy's been on the planning board just briefly, but he's been pretty involved in the industrial park planning committee. The guy's got a great mind, if somebody you wanna ask.
And thinks ahead.
Yeah, and not afraid to throw his name on several committees and stuff like that.
I saw it.
So I can solicit.
Fran, yeah. You could ask him.
You guys could just appoint him and then find out if he turns you down.
You could find out how
Knowing Fran, you would.
anxious Mike Tomaselli is.
Right, that's another good one, Mike.
Another guy that's
Speaking of Mike
going
Thomas,
for that.
he's not here tonight.
What is up with that?
I don't know, I'm gonna find out.
He's
But you,
resting up for
You
Wednesday.
can't spell text.
He's resting up for Wednesday, 'cause it's gonna be a long night.
Okay.
Okay, quit claim deeds.
Okay, so we got a bunch of them in front of you. As a matter of fact, I threw one more in at the last minute. So I'll explain the 4 quitclaim deeds that you have, and then we'll look for individual motions if we can. So the one that I threw in front of you is for 170 Butler Road, the tax lien certificate 621 in Lincoln County Registry of Deeds 4410, page 183. You guys find that one? On that particular one, this was on our list of tax acquired properties, but they paid all back taxes in full. So now you have to quitclaim deed this property back if you so incline. 95 West Side Road, same lien, tax lien certificate date, but the Lincoln County Registry of Deeds is book 4410, page 126. That's the exact same story. It paid all back taxes, and also the same one in that gentleman's name, but for Lincoln County Registry of Deeds, book 4410, page 127. Same exact story. Paid all back taxes. So we'll be looking for you to do a quitclaim deed to get that property back in their rightful name. And then the last one is 471 Back Narrows Road. And this is the one that I explained the other day where there's some kind of complications in the payment of back taxes. So this lady has cleared this lien that we specify in the deed. So we just need to kind of fix, this is kind of an administrative one.
So this isn't the one we were talking about earlier?
No, that one's not, and that's, you confused me with your email because you said something about back narrows and I was like, did I put
Yeah,
that one?
I thought that's what it was, that's why.
That one's not ready for your review. So all 4 of these, their back taxes have been paid, and now we need to clear the lien through a quitclaim deed.
I'll entertain a blanket motion to cover that for.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to sign the quitclaim deeds for 95 West Side Road for a certain lot of parcel of land located at West Side Road, for 471 Back Narrows Road, and for 170 Butler Road. Comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes.
We'll use mine as the original.
Public comment?
Public, for me.
Okay.
It's not customary to say thanks to an outgoing chairman, but I think that we're a little bit different because you've been chairman. So you guys threw some really rough times. So I think you deserve a thank you for that from all of us.
I appreciate this. I think you'll do a good job.
Well,
We've been
Yeah, as vice chair.
President, wait for the chairman.
no, sorry. I mean, like I say, it's not customary, but, you know, but I think we're in different circumstances.
That's necessary.
So who's the vice chair?
Dale.
No, it's all four of them.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I think they're kind of all.
I'll just mention this because I stopped at Eventide, which is a local business down in Boothbay Harbor, on the way up here from the Boothbay Harbor's Selectmen's meeting, and I saw the owners there working. They're closed on Monday nights and they're working late. And I mentioned to them the topics that were discussed at the Boothbay Comp Plan Committee Business Issues Workshop, and they were very interested in reaching out and discussing, ways in which they can work with Boothbay Harbor in terms of, outreach with business. And they said, well, this is a busy time of year for them, getting their business up and running. They're more than welcome to, they would be amenable to a phone call, to stop into a conversation if there was a survey, for the one-on-one contact. And to the degree and the extent that, they really do want to participate in ways to help the business community for our region. So I just take that as a positive sign of one of the outcomes of what you guys are doing with your comp plan and this business issues workshop. So I think you're headed in the right direction.
Anyone else? None?
I'm just flabbergasted by the change of chair. No, it wasn't
Hey, been a good run. It was 7 years.
Have you been chairman 7 years? No kidding. I knew you'd been I've been doing this about 3 or 4. 4. Huh. Wow.
Look at that.
That's a long time to take a thrashing.
The evil you know versus the evil you don't know.
Mhm.
I just want to look before I start signing.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's only 2 there, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, we don't need to sign dogs, right?
Yeah, actually, yes, I do.
Only chair needs to.
Yeah, you can take this one. Oh, I think we just learned how to do it. 13.
Yes.
That's the quick things.
Did you make your motion to review the warrants and sign?
Yes.
You're gonna have to get a new folder.
I don't think it's actually been made.
I'll make the motion to review the warrant and sign them upon.
So moved, or second.
Second. All those in favor? I'll also entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you all.